Alrighty, day's ticking on. It's about 5 p.m. Got the old punch on. I haven't worn this for a little while. It's the checkered one. It's fairly cool. We're getting those sort of, the days where we're, I don't know if we're technically in autumn yet. I think we may be. It's cool all the time, you know. And anyway, I've got to go and finish another shirt, and there's not a great deal more to do on it, so I hope I can get it done for work tomorrow and wear it for work tomorrow. So we'll see how we go. It's a different material that I haven't used before. It's a bit of beige coloured stuff, and yeah, we'll see how that all goes. But anyway, just a bit more on the old Solomon Islands thing. I sort of get the feeling that if I don't make a move soon, I'm never going to be married. You know, it's one of these things, you know. Oh man, you know, I can tell you a few stories about some of my cousins, but I probably shouldn't. Oh, fuck it, why not? I went to 40th that one of them had, and you know, there's one just turned 40, other recently turned 43, and they got the 25-year-old one there, and blah 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 about guys in her ear, and I thought, holy smoke, like fuck me. You know, a whole lot of them are single. The 25-year-old has had someone, at least till earlier this year, but here she is listening to everything these two women in their 40s who are single are saying, and I felt like saying, what are you listening to these two for? It's like the fucking blind leading the blind here. Like, these two and their man advice is going to land you in the same spot they're in. You know, 40 and 43 and fucking, oh, got a boyfriend, but he's only been with me a couple of weeks, you know. And you know where it's going to end. It's going to be like all of them, just end in a few months, you know. And the other 43-year-old, you know, no man in sight. And she's basically given up, you know. And this is the thing, here I am, you know, 36 years old. I'm going to be 37 near the end of this year. And it's like, fucking hell, I'm going to end up like them, you know. And it's not so much that I'm fussy as I'm just hate fucking, you know, oh, you got to get out there and find girls. Well, fuck it, you know, I don't like social events, really. You know, I go to these blooming social events with family, and unless you're into the subject they're talking on, you just sit there fucking bored most of the time, you know. There's a guy at work, I mentioned that to, and he said, you know, the exact same thing happens with me. I go there and don't end up talking much to some of these people because they're, you know, they got they're in their own world, on their own plane, they're on a different channel to you, so you just, you know, and he's got a wife and kids, and he says, usually I just end up playing with the flaming kids because, you know, if the adults aren't talking about something that's on the same level, what have you got, you know? And me being me, like, I have me lazy days here. My sister is a lot more rushed than I am, but there's days here where I achieve a huge amount, you know, in a short enough period of time, you know. And some days, like today, where I take it a little bit easier, you know. And this is one of these things that, you know, to go out for 3 hours in a night and talk to people, it's not my thing, you know. I don't really have any interest to do half the stuff that these people do when they, you know, go to certain groups and organisations and this club or that club and you know, just stuff around for hours, you know, with their so-called leisure. And how many of these girls go to these clubs? You know, the only clubs they go to is the nightclub half the damn time, you know. And you've lost the days of girls who, I mean, you know, even sewing classes and that, you know, you might see a couple of girls there. You might not. You might sit there paying bloody $50 a night to hear all this shit you already knew. You know, and the chances are that, you know, they're not going to be much different to the fussy sort of city mentality. I mean, great example I've seen on YouTube just recently on one of these MGTOW channels, and you know, about this guy who went on a Tinder date with a girl and she didn't bother sending any text back, so he sent her a bill for the date. And the stupid ass fucking host, who I believe is in the same city that I work in, turns around and says, well, she should have sent him a bill for wasted time. Oh, who wasted whose time here? Huh? Half the time these girls will refuse to go on a date unless you go to a place where they get to eat some pretty reasonable food. You know, we're not talking McDonald's. And then, so, you know, her time was wasted? Well, whose time was wasted? Whose money was wasted? You know. It's all bull crap. It's the mentality that you see inside this country, in the cities, is really a mentality of selfishness, really. You know, they want it to be just my way, just perfect. The idea of taking the bad with the good is just not happening. It's not even considered. It's not even considered that they should have to take the bad with the good. The idea of compromises is not even considered. And they wake up one day and they're 40 or 43 or something like that, and guess what? No hope of getting marriage and kids now. It's all too late. You know, maybe marriage, but not kids, because it's too late for that biologically. You know, and this is one of these things. It's sort of, you know, I'm not going to really point any fingers, but I have heard the phrase that he was, you know, he'd breathe in my ear at night. That's what happens when you're in the same bed. Sometimes they breathe in your ear at night. Fucking sleep in separate beds then. Whatever. You know, like fucking hell, you know. It's just every little bit they can grab that there could be a possible complaint about, they'll complain about. And you know, you got to have compromise. You can't expect to have things 100% your way as a woman or as a man. Neither of you can have it 100% your way every damn time. And this whole concept of sort of, you know, working out a deal between the two of you, that's foreign to them, because everything that they want, they get because they pay for it. But this is a situation where they don't pay for it. You know, well, more often than not, the man's paying for most of the shit. But it's by that I mean it's not something you bought at the shop. You know, and this whole idea of, well, I buy this at the shop, it doesn't work, so I can take it back for a refund, or I can go and get it fixed. It's not like that when you're in a relationship. You know, there's some things that some do like, some don't like. You know, and you got to sort of work out a situation between the both of you. You know, and my parents have told me this, and yet I sit there looking around at half the women are available around here, and well, not necessarily around here, but particularly in the city, and you know, that's, you know, they're digging their own grave. I don't give a fuck, quite honestly. It's not my problem, you know, because it's one of these things like, when you understand a true entrepreneurial capitalist concept, you realise that, and when you start really seeing human nature from a third-party perspective, you realise that people actually have a lot more options than they think they have. But they just don't think hard enough to think what those options could be. And more often than not, it's all like, you know, and really speaking, I've really come across that far more than the average entrepreneur or, you know, smart character or wheeler and dealer could, because of being off-grid. And you hear all the sooking, you know, oh, I can't do this because you cost you. You know, I've had people tell me that it isn't worth it to plant your own garden. And to many degrees, that's true. If you're buying food from the discount section, as I often do, it's probably not worth it to have your own garden. But if you get a decent little irrigation setup, gardens can be fairly easy once you get the knack of the bugs that are in your area, how to companion plants, and there's aspects like planting onions next to other plants, and the smell of the onions drowns out the smell of the plants that the bugs are attracted to, and that's not necessarily a great example, but you get so many people who, I can't do anything, this is, and they're just stuck in their own options, and they're always bitching about their frickin' power bill. Here the damn lights are turned on via solar. Here if I want to get warm, I've got a wood heater in there, I've got a wood stove right behind me here. It takes me, using a bit of diesel, a lousy 3 minutes to get a fire fully going, and by, it's one of these things. You piss around for 5 minutes, 6 minutes, and then you throw in your big log and you've got heat for the rest of the night, and you get people that, but I want to just press the button. No compromise. Oh, hell no. No way in hell should I have to handle firewood, should I have to carry it inside in buckets, should I have to get down there with the blooming paper and the matches. Oh, no damn compromise. I just want to push a button and have the heat come into the house. And then bitch and moan and wail that it costs so much, and this is one of these things, many people, they sort of look at the stupid options and then turn around and say, these options are no good, but they're not willing to compromise by having to bring firewood inside, by having to get on their knees with a box of matches and light this thing up. No compromise, no thinking outside the square, no thinking hard as opposed to just taking what options are just stuck right under your nose. And you're going to have to pay a fairly reasonable bill for the heating, and this is the thing. It's really one of these things, that there's options out there, and, while you got other people, apparently the Philippines is a real hotspot. I know Colombia is a real hotspot. There's multiple hotspots for, going and getting women and whatnot in terms of mail order brides, and there's a lot of guys here who have married Asian girls just purely because, as the Indonesian guy that's at my work, now that I'm 3 days a week, I don't see him, but he once told me when I was there 5 days a week that one thing I have to understand about Asian culture is that Asian girls are pretty much brought up with the idea, as 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, one day you're going to grow up and get married. And they do that, they grow up and get married. And here we are with third wave feminism telling them all here that, no, you can have a career and you can do this and you can do that and you can do everything else. And then the whole marriage bit just falls off the cliff, or it's left too late, or they just sort of, it's never considered, and when it is, it's all too late and it's misunderstood and it's all me, and it's just doesn't function, and it just doesn't happen. Ultimately, they never get married, but because Asian girls are often brought up with the idea that you're going to get married, there's no trouble for Vietnamese guys to get married, Chinese guys to get married. They're all fucking married by age 26. Most of them are married by age 23, but the laggers are married at age 26. The ones behind, there'll be none of them that are married at age 27. It's all 26 and below, and pretty often it's 23. You see the same with Samoans and yeah. But, I'm looking at me different options, and here we are with a country that speaks a form of English that has basically taken its own path for the last 200 years. So it's English enough, but it's not exactly, and you've got words like pickaninny, which is children. I found out another one the other day, bubblina, pregnant. There's a lot of cocoa, food. There's a lot of different other words and stuff that they've thrown in, and some that they've thrown out where they just use the local traditional word in place of the English word, but it's not that hard to understand them all, you know, and like a lot of these places, Samoa, Tonga, Vanuatu, Solomon Islands, you know, and they're the ones I know for a fact there are girls dying to get to Australia. It's like coming out of frickin' not Mexico to come to America, it's like coming out of Nicaragua to come to America, which is truly fucking poor country. You know, it's one of these things, you know, and, oh, but you're selling off citizenship. Well, you know, let's face it, if I can get a girl who's, you know, not selfish and, you know, is willing to, you know, not sit there watching soapies all day on TV. Well, I don't have a frickin' TV antenna to watch them, but, you know, hey, you know, it is an option I have. And some people, but you shouldn't be. Well, frickin' hell, we've got Indians and Chinese and Vietnamese pouring in. You know, why can't I use my citizenship as a bargaining chip, as a bargaining card to get a girl? Why not? They're all pouring in the back door anyway, you know. So, you know, I think it's an option, and it's a fantastically powerful option you can use, you know, to get a girl. And these girls, you know, they're brought up as damn hard workers. So are the girls in New Guinea. You know, they're really hard workers. But I'm not saying that I want her out there swinging a damn axe. To be honest, I don't, you know, because, you know, that's just too hard yakka. But it's hard yakka enough for me some days. But you know, I would rather secure a girl with the right mentality versus the mentality of I'm a little princess and, you know, everything's got to go 100% my way. But anyway, at some point, I'm going to have to go down to a lawyer and immigration lawyer and ask them about what the process is likely to be. And probably within a month or two, probably more like 2 months, I'm going to get myself a young woman or 5 over there to actually go around and start, you know, finding some girls that sort of would be happy to come to Australia and sort of fit the ideals I might be looking for, or the features I might be looking for, or whatever you want to call it, and basically so that there can come a point where I can just fly over there for 3 weeks or whatever, maybe 4, maybe longer, and go on a meet and greet and, you know, have girls already lined up, already interested in coming to Australia, already not single mums or not this, not that, not, you know, already sort of, you know, not blooming disabled or anything weird, you know, ones that are sort of, you know, fairly good contenders, and, you know, ones that are not little 16-year-olds, but ones who are, you know, of a marriage age, you know, and ones who, you know, basically so I can go on a meet and greet tour for 3 or 4 weeks and sort of, you know, make a decision. And they do have cell phones over there. Many teenage girls over there have cell phones. They're quite common, although they're the older style digitals, the GSM. You know, I'll get her a phone sorted out, and you know, then I'll be able to talk to her on a regular basis. And at the point where I fly back to Australia, I'll, you know, make inroads into helping her get a passport and sort of working towards the path of getting her over here. At some point, I'm probably going to have to fly over a second time and maybe go through a marriage ceremony or whatever. But it's actually better to be married in Australia officially, because that's a huge amount of points, if not the full goal to actually get yourself permanent residency in this country. So yeah, we'll see about all this and see how it all goes. And with a bit of luck, we'll might end up with a couple little black babies running around in a few years' time.